And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. Hey, listen, by the way, if you want to follow the show online, there's multiple ways to do that. Now, hey, Booms, we got a issue with the live streaming on the website right now. Is that right?
Yeah, on the website, it's just not liking us today. I've tried it 4 times.
It seems like
not liking us.
It's like every time there's a glitch, it's actually through our website.
Yeah.
Anyway, but bottom line is they can watch it on YouTube, though, right?
YouTube and Facebook.
YouTube. How about Instagram?
And Instagram doesn't like me either because I just had to reboot it.
Okay. Technology helps us so much.
It helps and it makes you happy and it drives you crazy all at the same time.
Gosh, saves us so much time. I'm the guy that usually the conversation starts with, "Well, sir, did you reboot?" That's where it always starts with me. Hey, listen, we got plenty more though. I mean, we're on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're also, by the way, on. You can find the show on its own website, rightsideradio.org, and the show is podcasted heavily, by the way. So if you want to track the show or you missed part and you want to come back to it, like I'm looking right now, Tony from Piedmont just said outstanding monologue, and he says missed the show yesterday. Had to be down in Birmingham, so. Anyway, Tony, you can always pick up part of it from yesterday or the whole thing if you want to. Go to any version of podcasting out there. We put it up on Podbean. It's up against on iTunes. It's on Google. You can also find them posted on our website, rightsideradio.org. And so, yeah, you can pick up the show after the fact, and we have a ton of folks that do that. What are our downloads today, my brother?
We're at 106,000.
Is we?
Yes,
Is we indeed? I like it.
Yeah.
106,000. That's I thought we were just like eating donuts last week and doing push-ups. It was.
That's what it feels like.
It's flying by. Yeah, 106,000 downloads. What's our second biggest audience? Did Florida still outpace California?
I looked this morning, and California has bumped back up to number 2.
Hello, California. We love you out there on the left coast. You know what? I've got somebody that I met who's in the California State Senate. I met her at a conference when Charlene and I were in D.C., and I need to contact her and have her on the show and find out if she's one of our listeners.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Hey, Senator Melendez, are you one of our listeners? But anyway, yeah, California, we love you. And so, folks, you can follow the show any number of ways. You can also follow me personally on Twitter, @Sin, that's S-E-N, @Sin Phil Williams. All our stuff is out there. Plenty of doings, too. The text lines are open, and so is the phone lines, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. If you're texting the show for the very first time, then just text the word Rightside to that number. It's all one word, Rightside. And you'll get an auto reply back that says, "Hey, Rightside Ruffian, thanks for joining," or something like that. And then tell us your first name and where you're from, and we'll plug you in. I mean, I'm so... Bev from Madison's already texted in. Bev, how you doing today? Glad you're out there. I told you about Tony from Piedmont. Frank from Huntsville's already on board. John from Huntsville. Yesterday we had Grandma Wanda from Coleman, John from Brownsboro, Amy from Madison. We had just, listen, the audience is all over the northern part of the state. Hartselle, I'm looking at Hartselle, Russellville, Harvest, Athens, Tullahoma. We got a lot of folks out of state. Anyway, all I'm saying is this. Text on in, y'all. We will take it. And we'll try to read those out as we go. Plenty of doings going on. Right now, President Biden is down in Mexico. And what a time. What a time to be in Mexico, because there's literally a war with the cartels going on right down there. And it's amazing to watch. Boomer, did you see the video of the fighting going on in the streets down there in Mexico?
Oh yeah, I was watching it all this morning actually, because I was like, wow, I just couldn't believe what was going on.
When you see helicopter gunships in the streets of Mexico, what the heck? And then
I didn't realize it was that bad.
Yeah, there's places right now in near resort towns. I've got one article right here that says they found 5 bodies chopped up in bags near Acapulco, I believe. Oh. And just, right outside the resorts area. Oh. And you look at this and go, I don't want to just like diss on their tourism, but dang, y'all. I mean, if I was going on vacation right now, I'm pretty sure it's not Mexico. I'm just saying. And by the way, I've gotten to where I really like to go where they speak the same language, so I know exactly what's going on. But I haven't traveled overseas, and I can't tell you when. I think the last time we went anywhere was on like a cruise, and we had some port of calls, but that was years ago. I'm not there, but I don't know why anybody right now would think, hey, let's pack up the family and go down to Ciudad Juarez, or let's cross the border and party tomorrow night in Tijuana. No, it's not safe, and you can't tell me it is. In fact, the research I did for today's show tells me I don't think we're going to be back there vacationing anytime ever. What's the look?
Yes, that's exactly right. After reading some of those things, I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, it's just awful. Well, President Biden's down there right now, and I'm wondering, I'd love to be a fly on the wall and see what kind of backroom discussions they're having. But it's called right now they're calling it the Summit of the Three Amigos, because the President of Canada, the United States, and Mexico are all meeting right now in conference together. And, I don't know. I don't know what Biden's going to come back with. Anything at all? Montezuma's revenge? I don't know. All right, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll come right back. First thing out the gate, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Biden's got a whole passel of explaining to do about some confidential or classified documents. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. I'm talking about this show covers some ground across the northern part of our state. I'm talking about down south of Birmingham, up north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and Mississippi, all just for good measure. Text lines are already going ba-boom. Daryl from Huntsville regarding my monologue says, I wonder how many people search Skillcraft pins after your monologue. By the way, it's spelled S-K-I-1-L, Skillcraft. But yes, I would suspect a few did. But you know what, though, Daryl? I bet there was a whole bunch of them that heard that and went, oh, yeah. And they probably have a few in their drawer. We got a new listener, new texter on the line, Trina from Elkmont. Trina, we're glad you're with us. We'll get you your name inputted to the system. And then we got a text from Leanne from Huntsville that is, I get what she's saying.
That's Yukon Cornelius.
That's Yukon Cornelius. Nothing. Said, what's Biden coming back from Mexico? Nothing. Okay. Yep. Good stuff.
And we are up on our website, just so you know.
Well, oh, good deal. You're a wonder. You're a tech whiz.
Wonder.
I just don't even know how to explain it. Okay, hey, listen. So you've probably heard that there's a bit of a hullabaloo going on right now. President Biden apparently had some classified documents. Pray tell, Phil, not President Biden. Hasn't he excoriated the former president, his predecessor, for having classified documents? Yes, he did. Doesn't this appear to be just, potentially not near as bad as Trump? Really? Well, that's what they're saying. That's what they're trying to say. The mitigation is underway. Let me tell you something. It doesn't matter. If you've got one document that you're not supposed to have that was not declassified and is not being properly controlled, then you're wrong. Breaking news a moment ago on CNN, by the way, says that the documents that have been discovered in President Biden, then Vice President Biden, in his former office, they dealt with intel on the Ukraine, the UK, and Iran. Go figure. And they were ranked top secret SCI. So if you had a TS SCI before, and I've had a TS SCI and worked in SCIFs, then that's that ain't good. I would suspect, too, being the Vice President of the United States, he may have been read on to a SAP, which is called a Special Access Program. I don't know what these documents are, and I'm not going to try and tell you I know what they are. I can tell you what the reporting is. But I do know this. The average flunky, like me, working as a 05 at the time in the Pentagon, down in the basement SCIF and the bowels of the earth in the Pentagon, I can just tell you that when I got read on, and then when I left, I had to get read off. During my read-off, I'll never forget the lady looked at me when we were done, and she goes, okay, and here's the final word. If you write a book, we have to read it first. Oh, yes, ma'am. Apparently that doesn't apply if you're like a Biden or a Clinton or somebody else, but daggum, if you're that young E-4 submarine operator and you took a picture of the internal workings of your submarine because you were proud of where you worked and then found out later on you shouldn't have, you can lose your career and go to jail because that happened. The same time Hillary Clinton's server was being talked about on the news, a young Navy sailor, a submariner, was literally finding out that his life was about to be over as far as he knew it because he had dared to take pictures on his phone inside a nuclear submarine because he was a knucklehead, because he was a kid. Anyway, here's the deal. President Biden, hang on a second, I got a text from Michelle from Huntsville. She says, LOL, Phil, MSNBC said Biden's classified documents were an understandable mistake. Well, of course they did, Michelle. It was Biden. Good gosh. You know what? I need to find that story because I've got another one from CNN where they literally are doing everything they can to just say, this is not Trump. This is not the same. This is different. This is not near as bad. It's unreal. Let me start from the beginning. And by the way, it's a legit story. Especially made all the more so by the fact that just last fall, was it last fall? Just last fall, the FBI actually raided Mar-a-Lago, the personal residence of the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, and seized documents documents that he, as a president of the United States, had the authority to declassify himself. And we'll talk about that in detail because there is a protocol. There's a manner in which to do it. You don't just get to go, well, I think, therefore they are. No, I mean, you got to sign something. There needs to be a cover document saying document had been declassified on so-and-so date by so-and-so person. There's a way to do it. I don't know that Trump did it. But what I am trying to say is don't pretend for a minute that because an office that Biden doesn't even use anymore as a former vice president who probably didn't have the authority to declassify. Just because they find him there doesn't mean he's okay, but Trump's not. You got a conundrum, brother. You got a conundrum. Now what do you do? All right, so the story on CBS dated today. Attorney General Merrick Garland has assigned the U.S. Attorney in Chicago to review documents marked classified that were found at the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement in Washington. Two sources with knowledge of the inquiry told CBS. The roughly 10 documents, right now they're saying there's only 10. You know, they say they found over 100, maybe upwards of 300. I don't know how many of those were actually classified in Trump's possession, but they're saying they only found 10, just 10. CBS News has learned the FBI is also involved in the Biden affair. The material was identified by personal, this is what gets me. This was not an accidental find by the janitor. This was Biden's own attorneys. On November 2nd. Oh, really? A week before the election? Really? And we're just finding out? Really? The material was identified by personal attorneys for Mr. Biden on November 2nd. Richard Sauber, special counsel to the president, confirmed. The documents were discovered when Mr. Biden's personal attorneys were, quote, packing up files in a locked closet to prepare to vacate office space at the Penn Biden Center in Washington, D.C. The documents were contained in a folder that was in a box with other unclassified papers. A source familiar with the matter, this is correct. A source familiar with the matter told the News the documents did not contain nuclear secrets. Why would they throw that in there? Because the allegation was that Trump had nuclear secrets. It might have even been the nuclear codes. We don't know, like they never change the codes when a new president comes in. It might have been something like nuclear secrets. But when you're talking about Biden, you quickly say, there were no nuclear secrets as far as we know. Never mind that it dealt with Iran. And, that was the big thing, the Iran nuclear deal. Sauber, the special counsel to the president, also said on the same day the material was discovered, the White House counsels notified the National Archive, which took possession of the materials. All right, good on them. A source familiar with the matter said representatives from the National Archives then notified the Justice Department. Okay, good on them. Merrick Garland then notified the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois. So this is not being swept under the rug. And I got to ask you, what do you think the backstory is? What do you think the backstory is? I mean, what would you imagine? If you're going to say, okay, first of all, the backstory might be there's not a backstory. It might be simply that his attorneys went, oh crap, what's this document here marked TSSCI? I don't think we can hold this. What is it? I don't know. Don't look at it. Call somebody. Call the archives. And so they gave them up. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's where the story stops. Then again, I got two theories. Just two. Two theories on what another backstory might be. You ready for this? Two theories. A little bit of conspiracy theorists going on here. Number one, they don't know what to do with Biden, and he's already said he's probably going to run again, and they're trying to figure out ways to go ahead and make him look like the guy who probably shouldn't run. And so this is just the deep state's way of saying, look, all this stuff about Trump is on him too now. We can get him to gracefully say, I've decided not to run, because we can stack up stuff that just makes him want to get out, makes the party want him to get out. Not that they don't have enough already. So my first thought is, interesting. Merrick Garland, even referring it to a U.S. attorney for review. Well, Merrick Garland has to, by the way. Here's the other piece. Merrick Garland hates his life right now. Merrick Garland hates his life right now and is literally thinking, God almighty, the FBI did a raid on Mar-a-Lago, and I've got boxes that I really can't send the guy to jail for. And what do? I know. If the other president on the other party did the same thing, then I can find one innocent and the other side can't argue. Maybe it's a way of cleaning the slate so they can move on. Maybe they're hating life because the DOJ went down and did a raid, or the FBI went down and did a raid, and they really got out of hand, and it went politically bad for them, and they know it's going to be used in the campaign season, and they know the new Congress is going to wind up holding hearings, and they know it's going to backfire and just blow up right in their face. And so what they do, they say, how do we get rid of this? We got to let him off the hook. How do we let him off the hook? I don't know. If we do, it'll look like politics. If we don't, it'll look like politics. Wait, how about this? Put some documents in Biden's former office and let's quote unquote find them. And then we'll come back and go, well, they're both in presidential categories and they had the executive authority to declassify. So we see this as being a non-issue and we just wish they would be better able of handling documents in the future. And it all goes away. That's my prevailing theory, to be honest with you. I think it's their back way to let things simmer and then sort of reprimand and then sort of move on so that both sides can't make a thing of it. And it gives the ability for Merrick Garland to have a way out because he hates his life right now and wishes he had another job. He would just like to go play some golf. Please God, could you stop, Mr. President? Anyway, I'm getting lots of texts on this one too, by the way. The text messages are coming in. Paul from Athens says, and they had to emphasize that they were in a locked closet. Well, so were Trump's. Trump's were in a locked closet. They were locked because the archives had asked them to be locked, and so they complied. Leanne from Huntsville says, backstory, Biden brain, she's broke. I don't know what that Biden brain, she's broke. Okay. Tony from Piedmont says, think Biden and Trudeau should stay in Mexico to help with running the country. I wonder. Let's not annex it and make Mexico the 51st state. I know that. And then before we go to the break, I'll just tell you, Silas from Harvest. Silas, thanks for your service, man. He says, I was a submarine guy, and I concur. They don't take taking pictures very lightly. But why shouldn't Biden and the rest of them be held to the same standards as us? Totally agree. All right, man, we got to run to a break right now. And we'll be right back. I got callers calling in. I got text messages dropping in. And we got a topic that is already getting attention. We're talking about what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. You guys stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama, solid conservative and just plain right. That's that bump that I have to let play out sometimes, Boomer. I just sit there enjoying it.
I know.
Just rocking to some Black Crows there for a minute. Hey, the phone lines and the text lines are both going gaboom. So this one apparently got some attention. So, yeah, we're talking right now, this whole section of the Triple Dipper, we're calling it good for the gander. You know, what's good for the goose, good for the gander? Well, they're trying to say that Trump has just, created treason. One former intel official even said that Trump might ought to be executed for having classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. And now, suddenly, they found classified documents in Biden's former office at the Penn, what is a think tank? I forgot what it's called, the Penn something. Anyway, it's a thing, man. It's, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I got a caller on line, too. Let me grab that real quick. Held on during the break, and I really appreciate it. Susan from Elkmont. Hey, Susan, how you doing?
Doing well. I had a question that I shared with Boomer.
Yeah.
If these documents were discovered before the midterm, how come they weren't in the news before the midterm?
Exactly.
It seems like a trend.
Exactly. How about that? How about just let that thing lay for a while? Yeah, it literally took them about, 2 months to get the news out, didn't it?
Yep.
I totally agree.
If it had been anybody else, it would have been right out there.
I agree. I think it would have been right out there, and I think it would have been the documents themselves probably would have been exposed at that point. But yeah, Susan, great point. Good call. Thanks very much. Yeah, it's just something, man. You look at it and you think, okay, when are they going to acknowledge that they're doing everything they can to persecute Trump, but excuse Biden? Because, and I get it, if Trump screwed up, I'm okay with it. Do what you got to do, man. But don't pretend that what's, good for the goose is not good for the gander. Because here's the deal. You can't go after somebody under the application of law and then not equally apply the law to someone else just because they're your person. You can't do it. Justice, the whole thing about justice wearing the blindfold is supposed to be because the application of the law is impartial. It is not designed for favorites. And yet, for some reason, there always appears to be that the left has some kind of Teflon coating on them. Hillary Clinton can literally have classified information on her server, at her house, a non-government server. And then when they find out that it's there, one of her aides literally takes a hammer to destroy the hard drive. And the evidence is now gone. Who does that? Well, apparently Hillary Clinton's folks do that. And did anybody go to jail? No. When Hillary Clinton was running, her husband, Bill Clinton, just happened to have a quiet meeting on a dark runway in a small government plane with the Attorney General, who may or may not have been investigating. Just what? Okay, this kind of stuff, you look at it, you go, this double standard's got to stop. Let's keep moving on this, though, and talk about what it means. So the Presidential Records Act does require all presidential and vice presidential documents to be turned over to the National Archives. I get it. Now, you can imagine, though, that I would, wouldn't you? Wouldn't there be things that if you had the amazing job of being president of the free world, wouldn't you probably have some souvenirs somewhere in there? You have some things like, man, for posterity, when I write my memoirs, I want to include that. Or there's that document that's got my signature on it. And that document, it means something. And I would love to keep a copy of that. Or for that matter, this is that thing that I'm going to commit my time to when I leave office. And so I'm going to go ahead and continue to make use of some of this information that my office gained for me. I want to start a charity to support that thing in that foreign country. And here's that document that talks about whatever. You can imagine. I mean, everybody who's been somewhere comes back with a souvenir. Everybody who's been somewhere and done something important is, and I love the non-traditional souvenirs. Me personally, I always look for that thing that speaks to where I was without it being like just a cheap postcard or, a kitschy item that you buy in a souvenir shop. I want to find something that is tied to the place, tied to the memory. And I've got a lot of those things. Some of what we're looking at right now is that a president's going to leave office and there's going to be information that goes with him or her. But there is a process to this. And that's, by the way, don't take that I'm leading down a road of excusing here. I'm not. What I am saying, though, is if you're going to hold somebody to a standard, you got to hold them all the way. And you got to hold everybody else at the same standard. So right now what we're looking at is that in 2013, Hillary Clinton got away with it, and yet young Navy sailors didn't. And then on top of that, you got the fact that Biden is now found to have documents that are classified, TSSCI documents. And guess who was in charge of his office back then? The guy who was now Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, was in charge of that office. I'm just telling you, man, this just stinks. It just does. And Biden, by the way, is dodging the questions. Story on CNN, dated today, is that Biden is dodging the questions. I'll tell you about that. And then I've actually got the regs on how do you, by the way, declassify. We'll wrap this section up when we get back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative and just plain right.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio, Phil Williams, live in the Rightside studios, man. Local, state, national, sometimes international, covering down on all the issues. And like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. And yeah, I'm just telling, hour number 2. How'd that even happen? We're in hour number 2 already.
I don't know. We just get caught up in the moment, and they're so good. And the next thing we know, we're in hour 1 and 2 and
3,
and then we're done. We're like, oh man.
If we ever get to where there's an hour 4, we're going to have to do something, man.
That's
we have
right.
to bring in pizza or something.
Oh yes.
Hey, by the way, I'm going to go to the phone lines in 1 second here, but I got to tell you, I got some amazing people on the text line. And Lynn from Knoxville, where did my text go? It went away. There it is. Lynn from Knoxville just made a great point that I hadn't thought about. I have an amazing audience, you know. Full credit to Lynn from Knoxville. Says 2 big differences in the classified documents issue here. 2 big differences. Number 1, Biden was the vice president. He shouldn't have had classified documents. Number 2, and this is the big one that got me, the documents were completely unsecured. At least with Trump, you had the Secret Service guarding the residence. That's exactly right. The Penn think tank was just an office. Nobody was there. Biden wasn't going back to it. He just left stuff behind. He sent some people over there to clean it out. They found it in a closet. And they're like, wow, what's this? The Trump thing at Mar-a-Lago, Trump had a locked room in the basement of Mar-a-Lago as requested by the archives while they were talking about what should be turned over and what shouldn't. And the Secret Service was guarding the house. So little different there. Hadn't thought about that. Got a caller on line 1. Let me jump over there to it. Appreciate waiting through the break. Robert from Huntsville. Robert, how you doing?
I'm doing okay, Phil. With this double standard that we have in the justice system that we've seen through the Obama administration and during Trump being when he was president and now President Biden, the only thing I can say is that we don't live in a republic no more. If you really think about it, our country has gone too far to the left, and I would say that it's already there being a communist country. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, I'm not quite as pessimistic as you are. I do believe that last week we watched conservatives prevail in a House fight to get concessions about how the House would do its business. So I'm still of the hope that what we have is not so far gone that we can't get it back. I do believe it's not necessarily communist, but it's certainly more socialist. And I do believe there's a double standard in the law or the application of the law for left versus right too often. And so there's my thoughts, man.
My other question is this. I was in the military for a long time, and I've touched elbows or rubbed elbows with the real high muckety-mucks. And my question is, when will get to
Did we lose him?
the military coup?
Hey, Robert, we're losing your signal, man. We only heard half your question there. Can you ask it real quick?
What I'm trying to say is, my question is this. When will the military step in and have a military coup?
Never.
If it gets really bad in this country.
Never.
I hate to ask
Never.
that question.
That's a question that's outside the boundaries of the law. The military is like most countries, the military has a true civilian head of it, and there will not be a military coup that will ever be considered a good idea. So, no, posse comitatus says you don't use U.S. military forces on U.S. soil. That's why the National Guard's in a different category. They're a Title 32, not Title 10. So. No, not going to happen. And that's outside the bounds of this conversation, brother. All right, we got to move on. Let me jump over here. The text line is still blowing up. My gosh, I can't even keep up right now. This topic apparently has hit a nerve. And yeah, it's just, I'm going to have to go back there and read more texting. Let me do this. Let me just say, first of all, Biden's been avoiding the question. And he's about to do a press conference here, according to Fox News. There's a press conference coming with Biden, President Obrador of Mexico, and Trudeau of Canada. coming up very soon. And he's already been asked multiple times, and he just sits there. He won't answer the question. In fact, one of the comments that I've got here is that Biden heard the question and declined to even say a word. In fact, he even smirked at one point. You've seen him do the smirk. The kind of, In fact, it says it right here. CNN even reports. Asked by reporters in the room before the bilateral meeting in Mexico for a response to the classified documents, Biden stayed quiet and at one point appeared to smirk as shouting reporters were ushered out of the room. Now, here's the part that gets me in this story from CNN. This is dated today, actually. A source familiar with the matter told CNN that Biden is still not aware of what is contained in the actual documents. Biden wasn't even aware that the classified documents were located in the office and didn't become aware of them until his personal lawyers communicated their existence. I think that makes it worse. I mean, first of all, Trump knew the documents were there. Trump and his attorneys were talking to the archives and the Department of Justice. Trump and his attorneys responded, yes, we have these certain documents and we've got them under lock and key in a basement room in a facility guarded by the Secret Service. Biden didn't even know they were there. He didn't even know what they were. At least that's the dumb guy routine they're going to play. And it's just amazing to me. But keep in mind, too, story here on Fox News. Just this past September, in an interview on 60 Minutes, Biden was asked how he felt when he saw the photographs of all the documents spread out on the floor by the FBI when they raided Mar-a-Lago. His answer, this is Biden talking. How could that possibly happen? How could anyone be that irresponsible? And I thought the data was in there that may compromise sources and methods. By that, I mean the names of people who helped her, etc. Basically what he's saying is he threw the former president, under the bus. And then never mind the fact that was in September when he said that. A mere 35 days later, they apparently found classified documents in his former office left completely unattended. Representative James Comer of Kentucky, who's the chairman of the House Oversight Committee now, he said that he will be sending a letter to the National Archives and the White House counsel seeking information about the documents that were seized. He says, under the Biden administration, the Department of Justice and National Archives have made compliance with presidential records a top priority. We expect the same treatment for President Biden, who has apparently inappropriately maintained classified documents in an insecure setting for several years. You think? Okay, let me move down in my stack here. First of all, I will say this. CNN will report, and then CNN will defend all at the same time. It's ridiculous. So in an article that was not labeled editorial, CNN came out with a piece, and it's a long one. I mean, when we get the printout done, it's literally a 4-page article. The whole article is titled, "There are clear distinctions between Trump and Biden's two cases." Push to rush to his aid. We can't let this. We gotta find a difference. How do we explain this? We gotta mitigate the damages. Okay, so they literally say, seize documents with Trump, seize documents with Biden, but then they have the phrase, but there are clear distinctions between the two cases. Starts off with, the new controversy so far appears to be on a smaller scale. Physically smaller does not mean legally smaller. Thank you very much. What if we find out that President Biden had secrets about Ukrainian corruption and, oh, by the way, something with the Iran nuclear deal? Because we're hearing right now the documents are related to the United Kingdom, Iran, and Ukraine. Keep in mind, Ukraine, he's been on the record as saying that he literally got the head prosecutor for Ukraine fired as they were doing an investigation on a company that Hunter Biden was involved with. And now we find out there's documents about Ukraine tucked away in his old office. Reckon what they are. I don't know. So you can go ahead, CNN, and say, well, it's a smaller scale. Physically smaller does not mean legally smaller. If we find out that we've got a recipe for cheeseburgers in Mar-a-Lago in a document, but we've got Iran nuclear information in a document in Biden's office, I don't care if you have 300 cheeseburger documents and one nuclear document over here, the one nuclear document is the worst. So we don't know yet. CNN rushing to call it smaller. They also went ahead and got their expert on to say, this is apples and oranges, said a guy who is the deputy executive director of the James Madison Project, who went on to say, this is not as big a deal. Yeah. Well, Kevin McCarthy's already said, oh, really? They just now found them after all these years? How about that? And the question is, fairness and respect for the law does, in fact, dictate that Biden has to answer the same questions Trump is facing, period. There's no way around that. You have to. You cannot say that what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. Folks, I'm just telling you, there's a means by which you declassify documents. There is. I've got it right here. And one of the things it does say, in fact, is that a president, not a vice president, which Biden was when he took the documents, a president may, in fact, be recognized as having the ultimate power to classify or declassify documents according to a 1988 Supreme Court case called Navy versus Egan, E-G-A-N. You can look it up. Navy versus Egan set a standard. And the reality is we're looking at something that we don't know all the details yet. I get it. But I think there's a backstory on this. And I think we're also going to find out that those documents that were tucked away in Biden's old office, they have meaning. And I think we're going to find out that everybody wishes now the whole Mar-a-Lago thing would just go away. And this is an opportunity to let there be an even scale and it all fades from memory before it becomes an election campaign issue. Got a caller on line one. I've got about 30 seconds for a call. Brad from Decatur, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Phil. Love the show.
Thanks, man.
I was just about this, America, the public, sucks everything up like a milkshake that has to do with Joe Biden. They blow it off. Everything's fine. And I can't believe the American public itself is accepting this and are not in the streets saying, why is this? Why do we have this? Why do we let this happen? That's the only thing that concerns me. Republican, Democrat, why are Americans putting up with this? And I love your show. I listen every day.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think we are accepting it. I think the fact that you're calling into my show where I'm talking about it is a clear indication that not everybody's accepting it. And I'm waiting to see what the new Republican House committees find out. Brad, good call. Got to run to a break. Boomer, let's go ahead and do it right now. We'll do the break, and we'll come back. We're switching gears here in a moment. Got to talk about some home fries. Things are happening around the state of Alabama. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama, solid conservative and just plain right. Hey, by the way, the text lines, I got a great audience. And Steve from Tennessee just texted me an actual picture of the patent application from the government Skillcraft pen that I was talking about earlier from 1965. They went into production and began fielding them for the government in 1968, and the patent was obtained in 1965 for the anti-gravity pen. No telling how many they sold of those things over the years. I got a caller on the line. Let me grab that real quick. Is that Jeff Rowe? Jeff from Indiana. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, Phil. Hit Tennessee line.
Oh, back on the road, I see.
Oh, yeah. Out today, on today, off tomorrow, on the next day, so every other day.
So if you're just to the Tennessee line, that means you just passed Buc-ee's.
Well, a while ago, yeah. Now I got to go through the chicken coop, the Tennessee chicken coop, which is a major chicken coop.
Oh, wow.
Biggest one I ever seen.
What's on your mind, man?
Hey, on these documents and everything, how do we know what isn't there a way to tell what documents have been taken, or how do they categorize these documents? It's top secret, or is there any trace of any, how do they, once a document is top secret, who does that, and how do they document that it's been created? Yeah,
it depends on the office. There are standards for government classification, and some of the standards have been in place forever. Like, I think Roosevelt put a lot of them in place. And then there were actually updated orders. Executive order by Obama changed the manner in which you classify and then control the declassification. And that's still being used because it was actually a good system. But what they do is they put a cover sheet on them, but then you don't know how many copies have been made. So if you go into a meeting, there might be, with high-level executives like a vice president, you might have a conference table and there are 10 folders with a cover sheet on it that's labeled with a red border, TS, SCI, and it might even say what the program is and distribution restricted. But he's the vice president, so he could walk away with a document and then decide to just put it in his drawer and get back to you later.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, shouldn't there be a record that this document was actually created and it's missing from the archives?
You would think so, but then again, it might be in the archives. Like I said, this might just be his copy of something that's still in the archives. Just the fact it's a copy doesn't mean it's not classified. Do what? Did I lose him?
They started somewhere and gave back the copies that was originals.
Well, yeah, they actually do a chain of custody. In fact, especially when you're doing something that involves a decision, they actually put a cover sheet decision sheet on there, and you have to sign off on it. If you've got something that's that controlled, then it may literally have such limited access. You have to sign for it and then sign it back in when you're done. But like I said, he's the vice president of the United States. Ain't no telling. Anyway.
Yeah, if it was in my possession, how would I keep, I could make as many copies as I want and hand them out to as many people as I want to. Nobody would ever know.
Well, that's the thing, is we don't know what was done with it. Why was this stuff at a think tank office? And why did it relate to Ukraine and to United Kingdom and to Iran, for that matter? But there's going to be more on this to come. I suspect the Republicans in the Oversight Committee are going to be dogging this thing like nobody's business.
Yeah, but as long as, they can subpoena whoever they want to, as long as the DOJ says, we're not going to press charges against this person for not showing up. Ain't nobody going to show up. Ain't nobody going to say anything.
That's exactly right. Hey, what's interesting, too, is the Penn Center where he had his office. Somebody reminded me, Paul from Athens just reminded me in a text that I believe the Chinese government has provided financial support to the Penn Center where the office was located.
Surely you jest.
I'm not going to be a bit surprised if we don't find out that the Ukrainian government did also. I'd
say Putin's got a key to the office, maybe. Who knows?
All right, Jeff, be safe on the road, man. We appreciate you.
Have a good one, Phil.
See ya. Putin's got a key to the office. That's funny. That is too funny. Oh, wow. That's just all right. And the text lines, like I said, continue just to blow up. We got a new texter on there, Boomer. All they said was, "Let's go, Brandon." I don't know who it is.
I'll find out.
All right. That's a heck of an intro. And then Leanne from Huntsville. I finally got what she's doing. She's sending me something, and it's supposed to be said with an Italian accent. See now I get it. Now what I'm supposed to be saying is Biden, he's a brain, she is a broke, and I had no idea what she was doing, because when you write Biden, he's a brain, she's a broken, you don't read it like an Italian accent, then I don't know what's going on. So anyway, too funny. All right, we got lots more where this came from. We're going to switch gears. We're going to home fries coming up next. Got to talk about what's happening around the state of Alabama. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering down on some ground across the great state of Alabama. I'm talking about we are down south of Birmingham. We are up north of Huntsville. We are Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden, Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, pieces of them to throw in just for good measure. I'm just telling you. By the way, you know why? You know why we've been able to do that in just a year and a half on the air? It's because of y'all. There ain't no way around this. Boomer and I could sit here and push every button and slide every dial and yell into this little microphone. But the truth of the matter is it's because we got an audience of people that actually listen and respond and engage. And so very cool. Hey, by the way, one of our sponsors who's been with us since the very beginning is ZLA Solutions. If you have not heard of them, let me just encourage you, just look them up just for the heck of it. Look up their website, zlausa.com. They're good at what they do. And what they do is they provide all kinds of business end solutions. They do things like logistics and warehousing. They can do your quality control, your sorting and containment, all that kind of stuff. But their bread and butter, man, is staffing, temp and direct hire. So it doesn't matter. And if you were looking for a job yourself, they got their jobs posted on their website. You can find good jobs all over North Alabama, high-paying jobs very often with good employers. But here's the thing. If you're an employer needing to fill out the ranks of your workforce, it doesn't matter whether it's onesies and twosies or a whole shift of people, special skills or a factory line, whatever, it doesn't matter, or just entry-level workers, then you just get in touch with them at zlausa.com. They can do the recruiting, the background checks, the drug testing if necessary, get you all the folks you need. That's what they do. They like to say at ZLA, we don't make it, we make it better. And at ZLA Solutions, they do indeed. Check them out, ZLA Solutions at zlausa.com. Please tell them you heard about it on Rightside. All right, we're about to switch gears.
Real quick, before we switch gears, I had a quick question for you. I know we were talking about all these souvenirs and everything.
Earlier in the show?
Yeah, earlier in the show. And I saw a few text messages come in. One particular Mike from Coxsey, Alabama, he was asking, what are some of these souvenirs you may have brought back?
Okay. So you're talking about, wow. All right. Now you're going to get me all whimsical. You've been to my house.
Oh yeah.
You've seen my study. I've got things on the wall, things on the shelves, and they're just like, some of them are just special to me. They're special in general. But like, you've seen the 3 rifles that are hanging.
Saw the 3 rifles.
So there's 3 generations of war trophies, 3 rifles hanging together on a wall. I brought one back from and Customs approved it. It's a black powder model 1859 Enfield rifle that I brought back from Afghanistan. A Nagant that my dad brought back from Vietnam. A Mauser my grandfather brought back from World War II. So it's 3 generations of war trophies hanging together. That just means the world to me to have those.
Well, there was the shell, the giant shell.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had the 2 shell. Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
Yes.
So I've got a solid brass 105 shell sitting on the shelf in my study. It was fired from a Spectre gunship during Operation Anaconda when they were hunting bin Laden in the Tora Bora Mountains in 2002. So I got to know a Spectre gunner because we were doing our infill through a special operations base in Uzbekistan. That's where all the dudes who flew Spectres were located. If you ever have seen the Spectre gunship, man, you got to look it up. It got a 105 howitzer cannon poking out the side of a C-130 airplane, and they can pinpoint a target from 10,000 feet and take it out. Anyway, yeah, I got a shell casing from the hunt for bin Laden. I'll tell you the other shell casing, though, that I didn't see coming. So my dad, who's passed away now, but my dad was career Army. So sitting on the shelf is this little half-size, bright, shiny brass shell casing. And I thought for the longest time it was like a bowl or a cigar holder or something. I didn't know what it was because it was short. It's only about 6 inches tall. And one day I looked at it and I picked it up and I realized when I looked at the bottom of it, it's a shell casing and it's been fired but it's shiny brass. And I asked Dad, I said, "What's the deal with this, Dad? What is this?" And he goes, "Oh, that's a shell casing from Eisenhower's funeral." I was like, "Excuse me? You've got what?"
Wow.
And he said, "Yeah." And he was like real blasé about it. And I said, "What are you saying to me? What is this?" Well, I actually had him do I've seen enough Antiques Roadshow, so I had him do an affidavit, which I keep on file before he passed away. We were stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas. When Eisenhower passed away, he was originally from Kansas. The funeral train brought him to Kansas for the funeral. And one of my dad's friends was in charge of the 21-gun cannon salute to receive the former president and general, Eisenhower, and saved my dad one of the shell casings. So, I mean, how cool is that?
Wow.
How cool is that?
You know, I think one day, maybe this year, you're going to have to do a remote from your home, and we'll do the video thing.
No.
And you can just,
I don't want
I mean,
to.
there's stories upon stories in there. And, you know,
That rug
I enjoy the stories. I know everyone else does. Everyone else has these stories, too, which is pretty cool.
You've seen the rug, too, in that.
The rug, yes.
So I've got a rug in there. So when we liberated Afghanistan, I got there at the very beginning, and we were trying to show the people of the nation that it was a new day. And so I was given op funds that I could use to help, surrounding area. So I'm on a special operations team out in the middle of nowhere. So we decided we had to show women it was a new day. They've been so subjugated by the Taliban. So we took some of the op funds. We renovated the building. We called it the Kunduz Women's Center, where they could learn a trade because they've been denied the opportunity to learn a trade. And one of the traditional trades in Afghanistan for women is rug making. And so we built the center. We purchased the looms. We bought them the materials. We hired an instructor. And I told them I wanted the very first rug, and I paid for it. I paid $500 in American dollars over there, which was a lot of money for Afghanistan. And I got pictures of 3 young ladies on their knees with the instructor for 3 months making that rug by hand, and it's now in my study.
Wow.
And I mean, I wouldn't take money for it. I have no idea what it's worth, but there's no way you can replace the story and the pictures that go with it and what it meant, because it was the liberation of a people.
Right.
And it was just cool.
Man.
It was cool. Yeah, I got all kinds of stuff like that.
All kinds of stories.
I don't know where they come from, but sometimes I think, man, I could sit in this room and just tell me stories. But hey, we're going to jump over to home fries. So I'm going to talk about some things that are happening around the great state of Alabama. By the way, I say it all the time on this show. I do not mind a bit on this show saying several things. Jesus is Lord. America's great. Alabama is beautiful. And oh, by the way, life is worth living. So yeah, we got to talk about our home state because there's things you got to know. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't. But home fries, going to cook up a little home fries here, tell you some things that are happening. By the way, one of the things that is going on right now is you got to know that today your new legislature is going into session. Today. It's called the organizational session. So here's the thing. I spent 8 years in the state Senate, and the organizational session is fairly relaxed. It can have some machinations to it. The organizational session is what you do at the first part of every 4-year term. By the way, a 4-year term, the fancy name for it is a quadrennium. So at the beginning of every quadrennium, the legislature goes in. They're only allowed to, by law, meet 5 times of their own accord. 4 times in what they call the regular session, 1 time in what's called the organizational session. That's the law. Now, if they go in outside of that, it can only be because the governor called them into a special session. So, which is kind of weird to me that the legislature, a co-equal and separate branch of government, can't come in of its own volition without a call from the governor outside of the normal days. But anyway, here's the deal. They go in today. Today, you've got literally 37 new lawmakers. Now, there's only 135 to begin with. 140 lawmakers to begin with. 35 in the Senate, 105 in the House. 37 of them is new. That's a chunk. So you're looking at right now, what am I looking at there? You're somewhere around 20% of the legislature is new right now. And they go in for the organizational. This is where they pick leadership. This is where they assign committees. And some of the stuff they know in advance what they're going to do, they better know in advance. Sometimes they set new rules. And this is what you're going to see unless somebody has a removal for good cause shown. You're going to see these people in these places for the next 4 years. So one of the things we talked about at length yesterday was they're going into the organizational session, and the House of Representatives stirred up a bit of a hornet's nest because the new leadership there is proposing a new set of rules or like modifications to the existing rules. I kind of go back to the if it ain't broke, don't fix it thing. They're trying to so-called streamline the processes. Well, they may streamline it. It's also going to shut down debate. It's also going to be something you have to be very careful about because you shut down debate today or make it Democrats hard to get a word in. Guess what? They might be in charge one day and you're going to wish you hadn't done that. The other piece of this is, what does it do to conservatives? Because true conservatives, in my opinion, are in the majority. The vast majority of Republicans in Montgomery are centrists. Some are even what I would call squishy centrists. But you've got some true conservatives down there that may want to put the halt on a bad bill. And some of these rule changes, to me, they're dangerously close to being something that could stifle debate. And so anyway, the organizational session for Alabama's legislature starts today. They'll be in for just a short period of time, after which they will come back again in the next few weeks for the actual regular session where they pass laws. No laws get passed, just rules, leadership, committee assignments, all the pomp and circumstance of organization. And anyway, there's that. Right here, home fries in Alabama. All right, I got a series of stories, some related to crime, some related to good news, some related to things just around your state. You got to know it. It's home fries. Let's take a break right now, Boomer. We'll come right back. Rightside Radio. Y'all stay with us. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Home fries, that's where we are right now. Going to spend a little time talking about what's been happening around the great state of Alabama, which I love, by the way. I'm a native son. I mean, this is home. I've been all over the world, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I'll just be honest with you. And you know, I say all that not in terms of a this is mine, you can't have it kind of attitude, just more of in a sense of appreciation. Every once in a while, when you go somewhere else, you think, golly, look at how good it was back there. But we got our problems and we got our beefs, and we have some of the same concerns other people have in other places about what happens on the federal side. But listen, we got stuff happening around the state, and you got to stay in tune with it because it's so easy for us to get all caught up. And Fox News said this about D.C. Well, you may have had 10 things that were more important happen in your backyard. But Fox News talks about D.C. or talks about Mexico, and I get it. But you know what? There's got to remain some level of focus on where we are. What's our public policy in Alabama? What is our crime rate in Alabama? What's our housing market? What's our jobs market? What's going on here? Where are the best places to live? What needs to change? Who are we electing at the local, state level? And so, yeah, I'm of a mind that we got to stay in tune with where we is, and that's important. Madison County had a shooting like I don't think we've seen in quite a while, and I just don't know that it's getting enough news. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't. Story came out yesterday, and I've got an update for it online that I'll flip over to here in just a minute. But in case y'all did not hear, Highway 72, AL.com reports that there was a shooting where 2 were killed, 13 were injured. Over 200 rounds were fired. 200 rounds. Y'all listen, I can go to the gun range and spend half a day and not shoot 200 rounds. I can go to the gun range and not find 200 rounds laying on the ground from other people who already been there before me. 200 rounds is a lot of brass. And the idea that this happened on Highway 72 driving through Madison County, I stress county, not city. I already had a couple people earlier that pinged me, said, Phil, county, not city. I get it. But you know what? Highway 72 passes through both. And it wasn't far outside the city limits. Madison County Sheriff Kevin Turner said he's vowing to arrest anyone involved in Saturday night's shooting. There are 2 people in custody on a reckless murder charge following an incident that involved hundreds of shots being fired at a surprise 21st birthday party. Yeah, it was a surprise, all right. By the way, it's a birthday party. Were you fighting over the cake? What's the deal? Anyway, Turner said at a Monday press conference he expects more arrests because it was not a random shooting. It was a stupid act. It was more than stupid. But yeah, I agree with the sheriff, though. So the shooting occurred at a place called Legacy Events, a venue located at a strip mall near Maston Drive on US 72 around 11:30 Saturday night. As many as 100 people were at the site at the time of the shooting. Turner said 13 people were wounded, which left 2 dead, 3 people still in critical condition. 8 others were shot. So apparently not all of the, one? Yeah, okay. We got, 13 people. The 2 who died were both 20-year-old females, one named Caitlin Jenkins, another one named Quantasia Grant. According to Sheriff Turner, the shooting involved 2 different groups, multiple weapons. Investigators collecting more than 200 shell casings. They said you could literally not take a step without stepping on a shell casing. It happened outside the center, out on the sidewalk, into the parking lot, and out onto US 72 with multiple calibers of handguns and rifles. Story on AL.com today has an update. It says that there were 2 people arrested, and I'm trying to find if they did not name. Arrested were Ashton Latrez Elliott, 20 of Huntsville, and DeMarcus Thompson, 19, both charged with reckless murder. Y'all, this is awful. And the very idea this occurred right here in Madison County. This is one of the obviously the more populated areas in the state, which is always going to have a problem when you have a compressed amount of people. But what we looked at this is the kind of thing you expect to see, like, I don't know, Chicago or Philly or something. But right here in Madison County, not even in the city limits, Madison County, 100 people were at a place where 200 rounds were fired, 13 people shot, 2 of them killed, 3 more in critical condition. That's awful. That is just next layer awful. But it's not just what's happened. The crime rate has spiked everywhere, and Yellowhammer News reports that Birmingham has the highest homicide count in 2022 since 1933. That's wow. We're talking close to 90 years. Birmingham, it says, already the murder capital of Alabama, has joined. By the way, it's one of the highest per capita murder rates in the United States. You might have gross numbers that are bigger in places like Atlanta or Philadelphia or Chicago, but when you take it by population per capita, Birmingham has one of the highest murder rates in the nation per capita. Birmingham, it says, already the murder capital of Alabama, has joined a list of U.S. cities that have the highest homicide rates per capita. Like I said, the city over the last few years has repeatedly landed in the top 5 of that group. Law enforcement officials in these cities and throughout the state believe there has been a nationwide uptick in homicides and that the trend is not specific to one area, but it is happening throughout the country. I think if you'll look, you'll find, they don't say it in this article, but I've seen it in other studies, that the vast majority of upticks in major crime in terms of violent crime is happening in Democrat-run cities where they've gone soft on crime and weak on the police. And while they defund the law enforcers, they, absolve and encourage the lawbreakers. It says in 2022, Birmingham experienced 144 homicides. That's the most in decades. And the weapons were typically firearms. The record high for Birmingham was set in 1933 with 148. The city's lowest numbers came in 1956 with a total of 56. So you're looking at, we were only 4 away from setting the all-time record. And we basically are the second highest, I think, ever in the city of Birmingham's history. And oh, by the way, it's the highest amount in, 89 years? That's sad. That's messed up. And I hate to see it. But anyway, I'm going to come back with some other stuff, not just murders and shootings around the state. I got other things that will happen, including some good stuff about the state of Alabama, because, like I said, there are things worth talking about. What did Governor Ivey do about the Department of Corrections good time policy? We'll talk about that. How about our Alabama Republican Party taking a stand against the national leadership? I like this. And then, that lady from Alabama who joined ISIS, well, she's back. We'll talk about it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international, covering down on all of the details. And, man, we are solid, conservative, and just plain right, like the dude just said. Hey, I'm in number 2 of the Triple Dipper. I've had no, like, special guests or anything, and it's still taken 2 hours to get to number 2 of the Triple Dipper. Well, I've been in it for a little bit, but...
Yep. Other than that one little rant that I put you on, other than that, it's been great.
Was that the rant? Oh, the rant about the souvenirs.
But I mean, yeah, so much good content. I mean, and stuff that people need to know.
Things you got to know.
Ooh,
So
yes.
I'm in home fries right now. Story on 1819 News. Our friends at 1819, Will Blakely, who's been on this show before, headline today: the Alabama woman who joined ISIS hopes to return to the U.S. In her words, if I need to sit in prison and do my time, I will do it. So, yeah, you may remember this. She was raised in Hoover. An Alabama woman, it says, who moved to Syria to join ISIS in 2014, is now saying she's willing to serve time in prison if it means she can return to the U.S. Of course she is. Hoda Mathana, 28, was born in New Jersey, raised in Hoover by a conservative Muslim family. In a rare interview with the News Moment, Mathana told the press about how ISIS brainwashed her before she left Alabama in 2014, flew to Turkey, and crossed into Syria. And I got to ask, how did ISIS brainwash her from afar? The only way that can happen is if she allowed herself to be indoctrinated either online or at a local gathering of a mosque or a social center. Anyway, before she left Alabama in 2014, she flew to Turkey and then crossed into Syria. There, Islamic State officials detained her in a house for unmarried women and children. That's what they do. And she says, I've always said, if I need to sit in prison and do my time, I will do it. I won't fight against it. She just wants to come back to the United States. Mathana has been married 3 times to ISIS fighters. Tweets on her account emerged at one point encouraging U.S. citizens to travel to territories under ISIS control to support the Islamic State. Other tweets from her account called for violence, including one over Memorial Day once, urging Americans to go on drive-bys and spill all of their blood. She also said, though, that even though she claims that those posts were hacks by people who took her phone and did it, she also said in a 2019 ABC News interview, I can't believe I even thought of that. So there you have it. Mathana, though, it says, might not be the only one in her family who's attempted to join the Islamic Caliphate. Mathana's sister, Arwa Mathana, and her husband, James Bradley, attempted to travel to the Middle East on a cargo ship in 2021. They were arrested and charged by federal agents who accused them of preparing to fight for ISIS. That family's got problems. I mean, so I'm not sure what they mean at the first part when they say raised in Hoover by a conservative Muslim family. Does conservative mean radical, or does conservative mean we would never condone this? We're not sure how both of our daughters became radicals. I don't know. All I know is, every family has issues, but dang, that family's got some issues. When your kids are leaving Hoover, of all places, Hoover. Life's pretty good in Hoover by, comparison to some other places. And they're leaving to go fly to Turkey. How'd they fly to Turkey? And cross into Syria to join ISIS. Yeah, from right here in Alabama. New change to prison policies. So this got some attention this past year. You remember in 2021, the past year, I guess 2 years ago, in 2021, Sheffield police officer Nick Reisner was killed. He was killed by a guy who was out on what they called good time from prison. Good time. Good time is the euphemism for an incentive to follow the prison rules and get time off your sentence. So basically, if you've been a good inmate, you followed the rules, you've not been caught doing things that are infractions or, for that matter, crimes inside the prison, you may qualify for good time. And good time allows, at the time, it allowed the actual, the warden of the particular prison to give people time off from their time served or their sentence and get them out quicker. Well, I get it. It encouraged good behavior. It also let some people out who shouldn't have been out. So Governor Ivey on Monday of this week, according to 1819 News, has issued an executive order to change the Department of Corrections' so-called good time policy. It says that a new executive order was issued. Here's the deal. The governor says, today I'm proud to announce an important step that will increase public safety. I signed an executive order to make improvements to policies within the DOC, allowing the commissioner and the good men and women who work for him to be able to better enforce the laws. And what she basically did was she set a category. You can't just give good time to anybody. It has to be someone who has met certain criteria, and even then it has to be measurable and sustained through, a written policy and a written adherence to certain rules. So number one, you've got low levels. In other words, they cannot have committed these infractions along the way. Low level violations, which means like gambling, disorderly conduct, possession of contraband. Medium level violations, which means 2 low levels in 1 year, or fighting without a weapon, possession, that kind of thing. High level violations with things like assault with a weapon. These are all inside the jail. Fighting with a weapon, sexual offenses, robbery, possession of the weapon, rioting or inciting a riot, those kind of things. And then there's severe, which is the 4th category. If you inside the prison commit homicide or assault with a weapon or sexual assault, or you attempt to escape. Anyway, a low violation results in the revocation of 1 good time day. You get it taken away from you. A medium violation is 2 years. A high violation is 3 years. And a severe violation revokes all good time from an inmate. That's a better policy. It's a much better policy. It was being abused before, and yeah, we've our Department of Corrections has got so many problems. But we had that great piece. What day was that, Boomer, that we did the interview with Annette Funderburk about the Ingram State? Was that Monday?
Oh yeah.
No, it was Friday.
Last Friday and we have it up. People can go look at it on the podcast.
Yeah, I will say this. That was a good news story.
It was very good. And I actually put it up on one of our stories on Instagram as well to go back. It's probably gone now, but I mean, it was a great story.
Listen, I got to tell you, too, I don't know if I told you this. After the show, well, I'll tell the whole audience about this. I'm telling them, hello, world.
Hey, we're just chatting.
Oh, by the way,
Don't
just
worry.
Boomer and I hanging out. Oh, everybody's listening. But no, after the show, after Annette Funderburk was here talking about Ingram State and how they provide an educational opportunity and then even try to support these guys when they leave prison to get a job and even buy them tools and help them put their resumes together and all that kind of stuff. Got an email from a guy who said that he was literally driving on Highway 72 and he went to the WVNN studio, because that's one of our affiliates for our syndicated show here. He went to the WVNN studio to find out how to get in touch, because he said, I have a company. I'm a DHR guy at my company. I will put those people to work if she will work with me on getting that done.
Wow.
So that evening, I was connecting that guy and Annette Funderburk, and I'm hopeful that we're going to find out that listening to the show, we got some more people a job.
How cool.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Wow.
That's very cool.
That's neat.
Next story I got. I've been talking about the fact that the Republican Party has a mech problem. we got some mech problem. Yes, I'd like an order of mech problems, please. What? Pray tell, Phil. What do you mean? Well, it was McCarthy, McConnell, and McDaniel. Our mech problems. Well, we got the first one solved. All right, so they got McCarthy taken care of. All right, he conceded on some points that conservatives wanted. I'm satisfied. Couldn't have asked for more, I think, in terms of what we're getting. But then you got the other two that are still mech problems. McConnell is about his square. McConnell saying, well, I never guaranteed that we were going to have a Republican wave. All right. Why are you still there, dude? Why are you in charge? You presided over lukewarmness. You presided over nothingness. But then there's McDaniel. Ronna McDaniel is the head of the Republican Party, the National Republican Party, the RNC. She has been the chair of the RNC now through some very tepid election results. Allegedly, she's the one helping steer the Republican Party to success, right? To setting good public policy, to meeting the goals of the voters. And what happened? We gained 9 seats in the House, and we failed to take control of the Senate. We even lost a seat in the upper chamber because of what happened in Georgia. And Ronna McDaniel has presided over that. And there are people, I've been saying on the show, she needs to go. Right after the election, I said it was time for her to go. Well, the Alabama Republican Party just stood up, man. Yellowhammer News, our buddy Yaffe from WVNN, he wrote this piece. The ALGOP Steering Committee votes no confidence in Ronna McDaniel. Wow. I'm not sure that that's happening other places, but we're on the record, y'all. And by the way, I think that's leadership. That's the way it should be. I'm so glad to see they're not going in going, well, we'll just see if perhaps she could do a little better for us next time. No. They're like, how about friggin' no? We don't need you anymore. So it says that many in the party, including Alabama, blame Republican National Committee Chair Ronna McDaniel's leadership for the underwhelming results in the November elections. The committee voted for her to go, declaring a vote of no confidence. That's the Alabama Steering Committee. Wow. The committee gave the following reasons. Number one, we believe the RNC leadership needs new vision. Number two, we believe the RNC needs to make defending the American people and their God-given rights and freedoms a priority. Number three, we believe the Republican Party needs to stand strong for the party platform and the principles that made this country great. And number four, we believe the RNC needs fresh, new leadership who can inspire, and lead grassroots Republicans to victory. And then it ends with this quote. For these reasons, the Alabama Republican Party Steering Committee cannot support or endorse Ronna McDaniel for RNC chair and declare our vote of no confidence in her leadership. That is strong, man. That is way strong. When an entire state's delegation issues a statement like that going into the national convention, woo, that's something. All right, Boomer, take us to the break, brother. We'll go and we'll come right back. Finish it up with, did you hear about the former Speaker of the House? He's out of jail. We'll talk about that briefly. And then a couple of good news stories about the state of Alabama, because I'm leaving the home fries on a high note. All right, folks, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Home fries. That's what we're talking about right now. Finishing up number 2 of the Triple Dipper here today. Home fries. Things that are happening around our home state right here in Alabama. All of y'all on podcast, just listen and wish you were here. So we got our problems and we know it. But listen, there's a reason why they call it Alabama the Beautiful. I mean, how many states do you know that can say that they've got mountains in the north down through rivers and into fertile plains and down to white sandy beaches and coastal regions with warm waters? And I'm just telling you, we got warm water ports, we got river traffic, we've got literally everything it takes. We could be a self-sustaining country of our own when it comes to agriculture. We've got literally things like, you wouldn't believe it, but the poultry business is $1 billion industry in Alabama alone. There is so much going on here. We are now considered to be for a while they're calling the Detroit of the South, because auto manufacturing has made Alabama such a home. The military community here is huge. World-class athletics in our academics and athletics in our college systems. We got places we got to fix some things, not the least of which is our K-12 education system has got to get better. But quality of life in Alabama is ranked high. Couple of things you might want to know, though, and by the way, this is one that I look back on, and I know him personally. But former Alabama House Speaker Mike Hubbard, if you don't remember, Mike Hubbard was part of the architect of the 2010 Republican wave that took over the state legislature after 136 years of Democrat control. Mike Hubbard wound up being convicted in 2016, though, of 12 counts of violating the ethics laws. 6 of those charges were then thrown out by the appeals court. There were people, by the way, who were lamenting the idea that Mike would be allowed to go and appeal these things. He can't appeal. Well, of course you can appeal. Every prisoner or every convictee has a right to appeal. It's a good thing he did, because half of them got thrown out. But he still had to serve. And so he just spent 28 months in jail. And Mike Hubbard, former Speaker of the House of Representatives in Alabama, just got out. I saw his mugshot, his release mugshot, and he's definitely changed. He's aged. And I don't know what he's going to do. He may just retire quietly. I saw one guy that said, or he may come back with a vengeance. Who knows? But anyway, Mike Hubbard, he did serve his time, and there's that. Couple of good news stories here as we wrap up this segment. Did you know that most recently, according to the Bama Buzz, the Yellowhammer State, that's what we are, the Yellowhammer State has been ranked as the 6th best state to do business in the entire nation. The 6th best of all of them. All right? And it's because we had so many categories they look at where we ranked high. It says companies from around the world have discovered that our state can offer them a favorable business environment, a motivated workforce, and a support system that makes success possible, said Greg Canfield, who I know he's a good dude. Greg Canfield, Secretary of the Department of Commerce. Here's where we rank high. Here's the breakdown of the categories where Alabama ranked in the top 10. And all of these point systems they put together because of these rankings. Speed of project permitting, number 1 in the nation. Energy availability and costs, number 3. Favorable regulatory environment, number 3. Overall cost of doing business, number 4. Workforce development programs, number 4. Business incentive programs, number 5. Available real estate, number 7. Cooperative state government, number 8. Corporate tax structure, number 8. Competitive labor environment, number 10. Site readiness programs, number 10. There's only 5 southern states in front of us. There's 5 southern states in the front of the pack, let me put it that way. Alabama, 6th in the nation for being declared the place to go and do business. So that can do nothing but help. And then the last thing as we go to the break here, so United Van Lines, and I saw that U-Haul does this also. United Van Lines issues their annual report. What states have more of their van lines doing what they call inbound moves? In other words, you get it a one-way truck rental a moving, and you take all your stuff to that place. Well, U-Haul does it on rentals. United Van Lines does it on moving people. But United Van Lines just released their 46th annual National Mover Study that they say indicates where Americans choose to live. And it continues to show, they say, that there are lower density, in other words, suburbs and countryside is becoming far more preferable to the inner cities. Reckon why? Says, according to the results of the study, which tracks the company's exclusive data, Vermont saw the highest percentage of inbound migration. Guess what? Alabama, 10th in the nation. 10th in the nation for people moving to the state. That's pretty cool. And do we have our problems? Yeah. But you know what? We're considered by United Van Lines to be the 10th biggest in terms of people wanting to come here for one reason or another. That's just cool. All right, we're going to come back. I'm going to go to number 3 on the Triple Dipper. Failed state of Mexico. This has got some stuff. You're going to want to hear it. What's happening down south of our border has ramifications that could ripple for a while. Phil Williams, we'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Hey, by the way, my friends at Riley and Jackson, who I talk to them fairly frequently. I was talking to one of them yesterday. Riley and Jackson law firm out of Birmingham. Now, they literally are a good-sized Birmingham firm that works statewide, and they're doing a lot of what you might call mass tort litigation now. In other words, they're looking at cases that have so many people involved, and they're signing up clients. They told me literally last night that they were actually signing up more. The guy said, I'm on the road right now. I had to go meet with some of the folks from Rightside who called in. I was like, well, that's cool. But here's one of the things they're working on. If you were at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, anywhere between 1953 and 1987, well, then you may well have been exposed to a known contaminated water source that has been attributed to up to 19 different major illnesses. It could be you. It could be a family member. It doesn't matter whether you were a civilian or a contractor or a military service member. All this to say, Camp Lejeune, you may qualify for a claim, and Riley and Jackson has got like 5 lawyers assigned to that right now. The other thing that they're working on, they wanted me to make sure you knew about, was if you were a first responder or a military member who used firefighting foam at any time in your career, you may well have been exposed to a carcinogenic version of that firefighting foam, and you may be eligible for a claim too. Now, they will not charge you for telling you what they think about your claim and how it works. They'll literally work with you, and they'll only get paid if they get a claim paid for you. So yeah, the bottom line is this. You ought to call them and see. Talk to the real person at Riley and Jackson. Let them square you away. Here's their number. You ready? I'm going to read it out to you. Riley and Jackson, 205-879-5000. That's Riley and Jackson, 205-879-5000. Give them a call. See what you think. They'll tell you what they think. And like I said, they don't charge you a thing unless they wind up getting money for you. Tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio, too. I get the biggest kick out of hearing that my folks are actually calling, and that's good. You ready for this? No representation made of the quality of legal sources before the quality of legal sources before other lawyers. That had to be one of my fastest ones.
That was fast.
That was blazing.
I guess we'll never know.
How does that man do that? How does that? It's a superpower, the fact that he can do that. Okay. Hey, next topic. Boomer, am I going to get this topic finished?
I don't know. There's a lot there, and what you had left over from yesterday.
Dude.
If you forgot about all those.
I mean, I'm sitting here looking at, probably one of the biggest stacks I have for the whole day is related to this topic.
I'm
in a quandary.
It's a mess.
That's what my grandson says. Did he ever tell you that?
No.
That's what my grandson says. So Charlene's grandmother name is Sweetie, and something Declan, my little guy, was saying something one day, and he goes, "It's just a big mess, Sweetie." He's just 3 years old.
Well, yes, Declan,
it's just a big mess, Sweetie.
It's just a big mess.
I think she was trying to get him in his car seat, and he weighs half as much as she does, and she's trying to get him in the car seat, and he just goes, "It's just a big mess, Sweetie."
Oh man.
Anyway, oh my gosh! All right, I'm totally distracted now. Hey, by the way, very cool to see that. Earlier you had me talking about souvenirs.
Oh, yeah.
And I mentioned that 105 shell from the Spectre gunship. And then lo and behold, right after that, Mike from Huntsville texts in, and turns out he was a Spectre guy himself at the K2, the base where I was at the exact same time.
Wow.
And by the way, that was not a big base. So who knows?
Man.
Might have even interacted for all I remember. But anyway, very cool. Mike, thanks for your service, and thanks for letting me know. That's a very cool connection. Brian from Huntsville, he's texting in. He's saying, with regards to the Mike Hubbard story, did he have any influence on Kay Ivy's choice about the executive order? No, I said no. But he goes, sorry, just in jest. No, I get it was in jest, but no. In fact, Mike Hubbard was released, and the next day she issued the executive order.
JT from Lacey Springs is giving you grief. He said it was 3.2 seconds.
What's 3.2 seconds? Did he? JT did not time that.
He may have.
It was 2.6. I could feel it. I just know in my heart of hearts, I know that it was, all right, 3.2 seconds. JT, come on. Paul from Athens just said, get the guy from Micro Machines to teach you how to talk faster. I don't know. I don't know that I can do that. I'm the guy that goes to court as a lawyer, and halfway through something that I'm saying, the court reporter goes, Mr. Williams, you're going to have to slow down. Well, I want to say, type faster. But I know that won't go over very well if I do that.
Did you see what John from Huntsville said on the local news that was just playing? Somebody stole a postal service truck right off the street of Brownsboro, Alabama. And he said, man, that's pretty messed up.
That is pretty messed up.
Yeah.
So, like, I guess the guy hopped out to put a package at the front door and turned around and his vehicle was gone.
It's gone, I guess.
Well, it's not like it's a speedy vehicle, so I'm pretty sure that he could probably outrun it.
If he saw it.
Yeah. Do you know they're talking about making all of those go electric?
Really?
Yeah. The entire fleet. They're talking about the Postal Service will go all electric because we're going to use renewables. That's great. Plug them all in at night and see how well they get charged up. And then we can't get our mail delivered because the power was out for the weekend because of a big storm. And next thing you know, we can't get mail. Freaking. Just saying.
If you love it so much, why don't you just go like the hybrid, where it's like half electric, half gas, and it's still going? I mean,
that's a point.
I mean, you're going to get better gas mileage. Hey, I have some friends that have those. They're awesome. They go forever. But all electric, do you want to put all your eggs in that basket?
I do not.
I do not. I mean, some people do, and that's awesome. They love their cars, but it's just not for me.
I'm just telling you right now, come the zombie apocalypse, I need gas.
I need gas.
It ain't going to be no power grid.
That's right.
That's right. Zombies are taking over the world, man. I am putting cans of gas in the back of my Jeep, and we're headed to the woods. Just saying.
Can zombies swim? Could you just go to an island?
They don't have to swim. They just walk across the bottom. Oh. You didn't know that?
I didn't know that. And that's from Pirates of the Caribbean. I guess that's,
So I'm not a big science fiction reader. We're just totally just like blowing this whole dipper off now. I don't know how this happened. This is just like, we're just like, where are we right now? But so I'm not a big like science fiction reader, but I think it was my son actually that said, oh, you got to read World War Z. So the movie World War Z with Brad Pitt was not at all like the book. The movie World War Z, every chapter was a different group of survivors in a zombie apocalypse, but it also talked about the tactics they used to try and take them out. And at the end, I don't want to give too much away, but they talked about the guys who had the most trouble emotionally and mentally recovering from the zombie apocalypse were the ones who had to clean out the catacombs underground where they had to go down there with flashlights, and the others were the ones who had to go underwater and get the ones who couldn't die underwater, but they stayed under there. And if you went swimming in the wrong place, they got you. I mean, as a kid, if I swam in the lake, I hated it when I hit a branch underwater. What was that?
Oh, yeah.
Hit a zombie underwater? Whole new day, man. Whole new day.
Whole new day.
It's like, I'm done.
I'm done. I didn't even see it coming.
Elvis has left the building. I am done. All right, Boomer, speaking of done, take me to a break. We're going to do the break right now. Leanne from Huntsville saying, all electric, no. Leanne's not for your hybrid, man.
Not for the hybrid.
Forget hybrids. Brian from Huntsville says stolen postal vehicle is probably full of Republican mail-in ballots. Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, there's still time to get my Volt Agra deal. No, that's Volt Agra. No, we're not doing Volt. No, we're not going down that road. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, Boomer made an executive decision for me. He told me I had too much material for that third dipper to even get to it today. Did you or did you not say that to me?
I did say this.
You did.
You had too much. You have too much to do it justice.
He's not just a pretty voice. He actually has some executive authority around here. He looks at me and goes, you can't possibly get all that done. So there's a desk full of material that just got relegated to tomorrow's. But it's going to be first out, though.
There you go. First out tomorrow.
First out.
First out of the gate.
Come on.
Yeah.
The wind dummy. The one that goes out the door first on the parachute drop. The wind dummy.
Wind dummy. That's what they're called.
I've been a wind dummy before.
What does the wind dummy do?
The wind dummy falls out first.
Oh, falls out first.
Well, jumps out.
Who's the gentleman that stands there and checks everything, opens the door?
The jump master.
Jump master.
Yeah. He's not a wind dummy.
He's not a wind dummy.
Although I've seen the jump master be the wind dummy. In fact,
accidentally or
no, no.
Oh, okay, just making sure.
We jumped the ramp one time on a. I think we were jumping a Caribou C-40. Is that a C-47? Anyway, we jumped the ramp. I'd never done a ramp jump before, which means you're going off the back of the plane. And every time I'd done a parachute jump to that point, static line parachute jump, you went out the side doors of the aircraft. And, the jump master is standing right there and the safeties, and the jump master gives you the commands, and then he puts you out the door. And he's going, go, go, go. Anyway, the jump master for this ramp jump, first time I'd ever seen it, he had to kneel down to look out the ramp to make sure there was nothing in the air, do his outside air safety checks and all that. And then he stood back up and he gives us 30 seconds. And we're like, 30 seconds. And then the green light came on, and I did not expect this. He went, follow me. And he went out the ramp. And I thought,
man,
my God, I would follow him anywhere right now. I was like, take the high ground. But anyway, that was the absolutely, well, I was about to say something crass, but I won't say it. It was cool.
That's cool. I mean, that is cool.
I was fired up. I was I was a young lieutenant, and this master sergeant Green Beret just stands up and like he's the heat man. He just stands up and looks at us all and goes, "Follow me!" And he turned and stepped off the ramp at 1,200 feet. And I'm like, "Yes."
Wow.
Okay, how did I get off on this? You did it to me again.
I did that.
Hey, got some great stuff here, but I got to tell you before we go too much further, Just Love Coffee Cafe, they've been with us for a while now, and Just Love Coffee Cafe is truly a place where you have to stop. I'm gonna say this. I enjoy their menu like you wouldn't believe. Like one of my favorites is the Womlet, a giant omelet filled with everything, including tater tots and cooked in a waffle iron. I enjoy the coffees. In fact, when I go there, usually I'm a black coffee kind of guy, grind the beans fresh. I like that. But then when I go to Just Love Coffee, a lot of times I get a cappuccino because they bring it to you in this giant mug. And it's like you feel like you could bathe your dog in that thing. It's so big. But I love the food. I love the coffees. But I got to tell you, the environment is part of Just Love Coffee also. You got Wi-Fi. You got a place you can hang out, especially the Madison location. I think they even have games and books on the shelf, if I recall correctly. And I'm just telling you, it's designed for be a place where you may want to go and just take a moment, maybe meet some friends. Don't even have to rush. Just, maybe if you're one of those who works remotely, you might even take your laptop there and sit in the corner, have a giant, latte, and just get into some caffeinated work right there at Just Love Coffee Cafe. 2 locations in our listening area. One on Hughes Road out in Madison, the other on South Parkway in Huntsville. It is worth checking out. Just Love Coffee Cafe. Please, by the way, when you're buying, when you're paying at the counter, tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio. I love it when Travis tells me that the folks come in. Okay, so so the postal truck was stolen in Brownsboro. We had that a minute ago. John from Brownsboro just texted in and goes, I hope that wasn't our mail lady. He does say she's a sweetheart, which means his mail lady is a nice person. And apparently so John, in Brownsboro, I hope that was not your mail truck, dude. But hey, we'll see. So then I got a text from Jay from Hartselle. He says, do you think Corporal Klinger from MASH was forecasting the future of the military? Oh, wow. No. But what's funny is that used to be a thing. If you remember, Corporal Klinger was trying to get out of the military by claiming he was crazy by wearing women's clothes. Now we have, in the uniformed public health service, the head guy is really a dude who thinks he's a lady who wears dresses to work, actually wears a uniform, and nobody questions. I got news. I got questions.
Lots of questions.
Lots of questions.
Lots of questions.
Jim from Madison texted in with regards to that book that I mentioned, World War Z, which, by the way, is a good read, man. It's one of those too that it'll creep you out, fire you up, give you inspiration, bring a tear to your eye. It's a well written book, and it's all about human character and resilience in the middle of a major crisis. In this case, it was a zombie apocalypse, which is a major crisis. He says Max Brooks is the one who wrote it, and his dad was Mel Brooks. I didn't know that. But yeah, he says World War Z was written by Max Brooks, the son of Mel Brooks and Anne Bancroft. He's a renowned military expert and a fellow at West Point. I did not know this. He said he hated what Hollywood did to his story. He said the only thing that Hollywood got right was the title. And I did not know, he goes on to say Mel Brooks was a combat engineer in World War II. Mel Brooks, the movie producer, the comedian, how about that? So the best Mel Brooks of all time was, quote, "The Army made me a combat engineer, combining two things I hate the most, combat and engineering." Pretty funny. We got, Mark from Owens Crossroads just texted in and says, "Just Love Coffee Cafe. Phil, the only way a real man can drink a treat coffee is to add 3 shots of espresso." They'll do it for you, bro. Just tell them you want 3 shots of espresso in that treat coffee. That's what Charlene calls it, treat coffee. And then I don't know who just texted this to us, but these last few minutes starts out like an episode of Bill and Ted. I don't know if I should take that as a compliment or not.
Bill and Ted.
It's an epic adventure, the movie. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I'm going to sit quiet now. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to ride out the last 5 minutes. What do you think of that?
Just quietness.
No, but I do got to jump over to a story. So here's the thing. This you may not have heard, but the government is coming for your gas stove. So this is a story that I was going to probably throw into a woke world segment later, but I got to do it now because another story just came up about it on Fox News right now as I was scanning the headlines a moment ago during the break. So there's a photo of the First Lady, Jill Biden, cooking on a gas stove, which, by the way, we just found out yesterday that the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission is considering a ban on gas stoves. Did you know that?
No.
Do you have a gas stove at your house?
No, I want a gas stove.
We've after 30. Let's see. After 34 years of marriage, I was finally able to put a gas stove into Charlene's kitchen, and yeah, they're saying, well, it creates internal pollutions and it can cause some health hazards, and so they're talking about banning gas stoves. I'm saying, good luck.
Good luck.
You can pry mine from my cold, dead fingers.
Yeah.
My gas stove. Yeah. So next thing you know, though, there's a picture of Jill Biden on Twitter. Cooking on a gas stove. That's just classic. They're not going to get it. What are they going to do with all the restaurants, by the way, that have gas stoves? They're just going to go ahead and say, yeah, no more cooking. You got to cook on electric from now on. Heat that griddle up best you can. Not going to happen. But this is what happens when leftists get hold of the government. And it's all wonderful. It's all pie in the sky. It's all good. This is why conservatives better start paying attention and taking a stand. And I don't mean like just listening to a radio show, which is great, by the way, but I'm talking about actually doing something, like running for office, like supporting a candidate, like going to a school board meeting and speaking out, like, making sure that you are heard by those in elected office. It's where we got to be. All right. I just rambled for the last 15 minutes because we've got a segment that was just too rich to do today. But there's things happening right now that we're going to talk about tomorrow anyway that are related, because I know for a fact that President Biden and President Obrador and President Macron have just, not Macron, Trudeau, have just done a joint press conference, or about to do a joint press conference. We've also got a story that McCarthy and the House Dems have now put China on notice in a bipartisan vote. So more to come, lots of doings, and we'll also be wind up having the Grand Council tomorrow with Dale Jackson and Jeff Poore. So full week for you, lots of stuff happening. You guys stay with us, and we will cover down on some ground across the northern part of our state. I enjoy what I do. I'm not sure how I stumbled into this late in life, but I'm digging it, Boomer, just so you know.
I'm digging it too. I like it. I mean,
I wish I could see
everybody get to
Boomer's
see
face.
us during the breaks. I mean, we literally just sit here and chat.
And
then
laugh.
sometimes we forget we're about to go on, and then you're like, "Why did you distract me?" I'm like, "My bad."
Boomer will look at me and go, "You got 5 seconds." Oh, crap. All right, folks, we love you. Y'all have an amazing night. Right Side Radio. We'll be back tomorrow. Hey, John from Huntsville, I'll try and get all 3 dippers done. We'll see y'all tomorrow.